Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. We're back from Miami Sellers Conference. We're going to do a full recap episode of that. That was fantastic. One guy who we got to connect with for the first time IRL was the man, the godfather, the OG of reselling, social media, and everything. We're excited to connect with Reezy Resells, everyone. We finally got him. We've been working hard to get him. We're excited about that and everything. Talk, some of the stuff that goes in reselling, changing your life with reselling, how we've all been able to do that and everything. So thanks for joining us today, Reezy.
Hey, dude, thank you for the intro. I appreciate it. I'm just a dude that pressed the red button on the camera a lot and spends way too much time on my phone.
Yeah, hey, that picking up the camera is hard. We all know that. A lot of people listening.
Yeah, it's heavy, man. You know, I'm pretty soon I'll be looking like Austin. You know what I mean?
Oh, there we go.
Miles has said that a few times, and I think you said it in your Miami speech. He was like, the camera feels so heavy that first time, and then it gets lighter and lighter. And
yep, definitely.
Sure. Yeah,
Reezy, I think this is gonna be a cool episode because I think a lot of, and me included, our viewers. You were one of the OGs. You were one of the very first of people who kind of sucked people into this crazy world, crazy space that we call selling on Amazon. So take us back to the beginning for you, right? What does the beginning for Reezy Resells look like in your story?
For Reezy Resells or for
the whole thing?
For when I first got started.
Yeah,
right.
Way back, first starting reselling.
Back in the day when I was young. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm just going to move you guys over to the teleprompter so I have appropriate audio. I'm sorry. I should have totally did this a second ago, but I freaking blew it. Blame it on me. All right, cool. Now we got eye contact and it's way better. So I always was hustling and trying to sell shit. I was that kid. I'm sorry, can I cuss on the podcast?
I guess. Yeah, it's cool.
I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll try to minimize it, but I do feel like it's part of my personality. So I was that kid that was like, taking candy to school and selling it. You know what I mean? Like go to Costco, buy a bag of like green sour caramel lollipops, take them to school. And back then we could sell them for $0.25. And I was like doubling or tripling my money. Like nowadays you probably have to sell them for $1 or something.
Inflation.
Yeah, right. And back when sodas were $0.25 for like a generic soda, a grocery store brand. I live in a beach town, and so I would like hide my school books in a bush. I would put a trash bag in my backpack. I would fill it with ice from like a hotel, which is like free. And then I would take like the $5 or $10 I made from selling lollipops and go buy quarter sodas from the grocery store and put them in my backpack. And then I would walk up and down the beach and sell sodas for $1 to people because I live in a tourist area. And there's also like an amusement park here, the boardwalk, where it's free to get in. But if you don't have any money, you can't have any fun.
Yeah.
And so you figure out how to get money, like I could hear a quarter or a token drop from like a mile away and know exactly like the XY coordinates of it. You know what I mean? Go grab it. And like, you just figure out your little hustles, like how to win the game and get 1 million tickets and then sell those to the sap that's probably going to spend like $40 trying to win a giant bear for his girl, like, hey dog, hey, I sell you these tickets for $20. You're going to, rack your wallet out here, and like, she'll never know. But, fast forward to being a young adult. I had my first kid and got married and moved out on my own at age 16. And my little brother was always on the internet. We were always trying to figure out how to make money on the internet from we were running different browsers that would run banner ads on our computer, and we'd get a check for like $6 or $12 every month. And my mom would be like, what's this check from? And we're like, oh, it's from using the internet, Mom. Like we were opting to view these banner ads. And the cool thing was my brother's like low-key hacker, and he had a mouse jiggler running on the computer. So we weren't actually using the computer, but it thought we were. And then we would get these checks every month.
There's a lot of corporate heads that would appreciate that.
Yeah,
nowadays.
We don't need to get too much into it, but yeah.
The mouse jiggler. I was busy, boss. I was busy. I've been moving my mouse a lot, the modern pencil pushing, I guess. Anyways. And so my brother had this gateway computer And he's such a techie nerd that like he at some point he realized he could sell parts off of his gateway computer. And so he like unscrews the speakers and unplugs them and sells those. And he's like, why do I need speakers? I'll use headphones. And ultimately his computer ended up being like only the main boards you needed screwed down to a piece of plywood and the case. Like he sold the outside case and everything. And then he sold his Nintendo 64. But when he sold it with all the games and the controllers. And the guy that bought it, his name, and I don't remember the exact name, but it was indicative that he sold video games. His name was like video game seller guy or something. It was enough to make me click on his name and see what he sold. And that was the first time I ever did research on eBay. And I was like, my brother's name's Royce. And I was like, Royce, this fool's selling one controller, one game, one system. I was like, he got us. Damn, we lost all this money. We could have sold everything individually. And so, as I'm sure you guys know, you learn, from mistakes mostly. You can learn from other people, but when you make a mistake, I feel like that's when you really learn. So not only did I learn we could sell individually, I also learned that we could buy lots off of eBay and then break that and sell individually. At the time, I didn't know it was called breaking bulk, but obviously now, we know these things. And I was doing a lot of stuff. I was selling bootleg cartoon fan sets on Yahoo auctions because it was kind of sketch to sell them on eBay. But people still do this nowadays for TV shows that are so old that the production companies never put them out on DVDs. You find the episodes off of Pirate Bay or wherever the hell, and then, orchestrate a whole DVD menu and make it all legit and box art set and everything. And they call it a fan set. And then you would sell it, and there's nobody to come like clap you up because they're out of business or whatever. But what happened after that whole revolution is that like now you can get the Ninja Turtles original cartoons, 8 DVD set or whatever, because that demonstrated that there was demand for it. So after doing all that stuff and like running out of pretty much everything that we had to sell, I was just casually selling stuff I would come across, like yard sales and stuff. At this time, I was just working super terrible, whatever jobs. I worked at IHOP. I delivered pizza. No, this was way later.
Way later.
The skateboard shop didn't come till way later. But I've always been an avid reader. Like I was in trouble so much as a kid. This is how I got into reading. I always thought reading was for nerds. Like I never studied for a test in my life, but I aced every test I ever took. But I also never did my homework. So I got B's and I was always in trouble at school, like every day, and grounded at home. And at one point I realized that there's always like a couple books in the room when you're grounded. And I started reading them and I started having fun. And I vividly remember being like, haha, I'm having fun. They don't know.
Being grounded.
Yeah, while being grounded, because I was reading. And like one of the first books I read all the way, like a larger book, was like the children's New Testament Bible. I forget the exact title.
Some wisdom, some super
wisdom. No, seriously. And I'm not religious. My dad's like a self-proclaimed atheist, but I was like, man, these stories are dope. You know what I mean? Like they're fire. Like I thought religious people were crazy. And no offense to religious people, you're definitely not crazy. Anyways, and so ultimately I started reading Star Wars books later in life when I was in group homes, foster care, all kinds of bad stuff. My parents pretty much neglected me. But I read up until the year 2000, I probably read every single Star Wars book ever made on any, like completely obsessed with the whole universe. And just, there's only 3 movies at the time back then. Later there was episode 1, 2, and 3. But even then, that's only 6 movies. And there's like hundreds of books about the whole universe. And back in the day before Disney bought it, they all had to get ran through George Lucas. You could write a Star Wars book, but you're not going to publish it without his approval and the changes. And so like it all linked together. And I was like, I'm such a nerd. Like I love science fiction. And so ultimately I had like this mad like display of books of all the books I've read. I was like getting them when they came out. And I was like, what do I need all these for? Like I'm looking for shit to sell in my house. And I was like, I'll just sell these. And without even thinking about it, I just put them up for a penny, starting an auction lot of like 48 books, like one large Star Wars series that I had read. and it went for, I forget what it was, but it was like 75% of the retail price of the books. And I was freaking blown away because at that time it didn't cross my mind that used books were worth anything. You know what I mean? And I don't know why. Like, I knew I liked reading. I knew other people might like reading, but I didn't think they were going to go for even 25% of retail value. And when they went for 75%, I was like, holy crap. And so that got stored in the back of my mind. Later, fast forward a while, still pre-YouTube, pre-iPhone, and I am just going to thrift stores and selling whatever I know about, which is like a lot of men, electronics, video games. Maybe I'll come across a random jersey or something, like an old starter jersey or something, but it wasn't, I was making like $500 a month grocery money, and I was working at a skate shop at the time. And then I started seeing people with scanners at stores. Like, I thought they worked at the store. I thought they were putting the books out at the store because they had shopping carts full of books at a thrift store. And then I would ask them, hey, what are you doing? And they would act like I was invisible. So imagine being two adults trying to have a conversation, and then they're clamming up on you. And that just made me even more excited. I was like, oh my God, they're making so
They're
much
doing
money.
something.
They
doing
don't want to talk about it
something.
for a reason. Yeah, we've all been there.
I was like, oh, buddy, that's all I needed. Like, they fucked up. They should have just told me some bullshit answer. And this might be like a pro tip. Sometimes, I think oftentimes, when the average person is just like, hey, what are you doing? You can just say some like partial quick answer they'll just go, oh, okay. And then like continue with their day. But if you clam up on them, certain people are going to become your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
They're going to become your adversary, right? And I was seeing these people at different stores I would go to. And so I started to wonder about the books, like, what's going on with these books? Like, and they had laser beams, barcode scanners. And I was like, those can't cost less than $100 to $300. No way. And so I would go home and I would look up book scanning, and my Google foo is pretty good. But all that comes up when you look up book scanning is like Make Magazine and Hackaday articles about people talking about how to make your own book digitizing setup. So you could rent books from the library and then digitize them and then have them on your own.
And this is what, 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah. Like just
completely
before,
different time.
Yeah, just before the iPhone came out and before YouTube was out, way back, and a little bit after electricity was invented, but not too much later. And so I was like tripping on it, and I like, it was just in the back of my head, I didn't know what Amazon was. I didn't know where they were selling them. I didn't know how they were determining what to buy. And even at $1 a piece at a thrift store, I still wasn't really ready to dive in. So what had happened was, one day I go to the Goodwill outlet, which we call the bins. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been there, assuming at least Miles has been to the bins.
Oh, yeah.
If you're listening and you don't know what the bins are, and you know that Jeff McLemore song, he's like, find me in the bins, like, I'm going to get some. I don't want to get you a copyright strike, but thrift shop. And
everyone knows that.
There's a clip of him running through the blue bins at the Goodwill outlet in that video. And I know he didn't have much money back then, so I feel like they probably just either got permission or didn't even get permission and just did that at an actual Goodwill outlet. So that's the bins, that's the Goodwill outlet. And anybody who's listening to this and you want to change your life, you could make $100,000 a year going to this one location and staying there all day, 5 days a week.
People do it.
Oh, hell yes. It's not for the weak of heart, the faint of heart. But it could change your life. They have everything there. It's the last stop for everything before it goes to the landfill. But also, it's not just picked over crap from thrift stores. Usually they take donations there and they're supposed to distribute them. They don't always get distributed. A lot of people don't know that, like, when the thrift store is fully stocked on, like, let's say they just put out a ton of new books and then they get a pallet of books come that day, they might send them straight to the hub because they're like, we're not going to just throw away the books we just put out. Like, send that to the hub. And then, it doesn't get sent back out anywhere. It just gets sent there. Not all stores sell online. So it is some leftover stuff. It is some stuff that never got listed. But as you guys know, there's so many different things you can sell. Nobody can know everything. We could all go into a good thrift store one after another and be like, I got everything. And then the next guy, I got everything. And the next guy, I got it. You know what I mean? That's the shit that I love about it. And sadly, once it became selling on Amazon, it's like click profit, click profit, click profit. It was never that exciting to me. You know what I mean? The Indiana Jones element was gone, right? And you didn't uncover any like golden monkey treasure, right? So I go to the bins one day and I see the usual suspects, the same 4 people I would always see at these other thrift stores. And they're looking like animals in a feeding trough going through these bins of books. And I was like, holy shit. And then I go to the counter and I was like, what are the prices on the books? And they're like, oh, it's $5 a bag. I was like, $5 a bag? Are you out of your mind? And so that's when I started buying books blind. I still didn't have a scanner. I was just buying them blind. And I don't really remember how I learned that they were selling on Amazon because I had never purchased anything on Amazon. All I knew was that you could buy books and music on Amazon because I had heard a couple friends talk about it. I bought some shit off this new website, Amazon, but I hadn't really heard too much about it. Well, I knew a lot about eBay, but I didn't know anything about Amazon. So without having a scanner, blind bought a bunch of books. Like imagine me, I'm just like going through books and a lot of them were rejects of the competition. I'm like looking at the inside cover and stuff. And I'm like, we'll take this one. We'll take this one. Sure. This one. Okay. But it's not like I really knew what I was doing. I wasn't even approaching it from a mindset of like, this is a nonfiction book that teaches you how to do something. And when you know how to do this, you can make money doing it. So it's probably valuable. Like I wasn't even thinking like that. I have no idea what I was thinking, but I had got off of my first few $5 bags of books. I like looked it up and I was like, damn, we're going to make like 150 off the like 7 ones that are actually good once I looked them up on Amazon. And so I remember I had like a couple hundred books listed, but I was barely selling any. And this was merchant fulfilled, of course. FBA wasn't out yet. And my brother was like, well, how are you pricing them? And you guys are going to think I'm literally a moron, but this is how I was pricing the books. I was be like, okay, here's this book. I had no idea like sales rank was dynamic or anything like that. I feel like I was so dumb, but I was like, okay, there's 5 pages of listings. And on page 3, this is the median price. And so I priced it at that. And then I was like, I'm not charging too much and I'm not charging too little, but I wasn't making any sales, you know? And my brother was like, why don't you just try the lowest price? And I was like, but then I'll undersell them. And then he's like the voice of wisdom. He's my younger brother too. And he's like, but you only paid $1. Who gives a shit? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And so I put everything to the lowest price. I just like, you know, my number pad skills are fast. Like if you don't got your number pad game up with your eyes closed and you want to be a reseller, you better get your number pad game up. So I 10 keyed out everything to the lowest price because this was before you could just click like drop to the lowest price on the manage inventory page. And then I wake up overnight and I sold like 30 or 40% of my inventory because this was like all of the good books. You know what I mean? When you list 100 books, the good ones sell right away. The next 25% sell over the next week, you know, and so on until all you have left is a large inventory of longer tail sales. Anyways, so those sold out and I still was struggling every day trying to Google it and figure out this book scanning stuff. So like when I look back, I'm like, man, these book scanning app companies were not advertising properly. You know what I mean? And they weren't like buying ads for the right keywords because I should have found it. What I resorted to doing was asking everybody I saw, continuing to just brute force it when I would see them. I was blind buying books every day before I would go to work. And then I would ask people, hey, what are you doing? And I would try to be real nice about it. Like I was trying to get all psychology about it, like act like I didn't really care, you know, like just being all friendly, like, hey, blah, 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 blah. Like, and eventually I seen a woman scanning books, an older woman, and I'd never seen her before. And so I got excited and I asked her and she just told me right away. She's like, oh, I'm scanning books to sell on Amazon and I'm using this app. It's called a seller tool. And I was like, you are a saint. And I just like Forrest Gump ran all the way home as fast as I could. I looked it up and I found out, you know, this is this service they have and this is what they charge. And they sold like pre-made PDAs loaded with the database and the scanner and everything for like $500. And I was like, I'm not buying that for $500, but explains how these grandmas and grandpas I've seen scanning are doing it. And so I just look on Craigslist and I was like, oh, you can get these PDAs for $15. No one wants them anymore. So it's like a Dell Axim X51 PDA, $15. You could get a dozen of them for $15. No one wants them anymore. The BlackBerry just came out. Who wants a PDA? You know what I mean? And the expensive thing was the compact flash scanner, which pops into the top of the PDA. And we called it, once you put it in there, we called it the potato peeler, because it kind of looks like you like holding this device, you know, with the laser on top. And they were like 100 if you were lucky and 300 new. So I would get that used off eBay or buy the wrong scanner, whatever, eventually figure it out. Now I have a scanner. And now I could actually compete, you know, much more robustly with everyone that was going to the Goodwill bins every day. And so that was my routine. I would go there every morning. I would go to work on the days I have to go to work. I would go on my lunch break or after work to the thrift stores. And then a lot of this stuff is stuff we all know about in like, you know, developing relationships with the thrift store. If they speak Spanish, flex your Spanish on them. You know what I mean? Like, be helpful. Don't leave it messy. Like, organize the books so that when they bring the new ones out and you're not there, there's only one place they could possibly put them. And that's the place that you designed for them to put them. So when you get back, you know where they're going to be at, or you know, when they put them out, it's after lunch, and you can get to the point where you show up after lunch and you put the books out for them, which means you get to scan them in the back before you put them out. You know what I mean? And so basically I just ran with that, and that's all it was until one day I got the email from Amazon talking about FBA. And I think I ignored it for a month or two. And then I started to think about it more and more. And I was like, I wonder if this would work. And what we did first was we were sending, me and my wife, we would send books. So the lowest price you could go on Amazon is obviously a penny. And at this time, everybody was still charging $3.99 shipping. It wasn't like now where everyone has it on free shipping basically, and you just bake it into your price. I don't even think you could adjust your shipping price back then to do that. So what I realized was that I could take almost any popular book that was £1 or less and send to FBA, and I could charge $4, and I would be the same price as the penny plus $3.99 shipping. But because I had Prime, I would have the premium positioning, and I would get the buy box, and they weren't getting the buy box. I don't even think I knew what the buy box really was. I just knew my offer was showing up above theirs, even though it was technically the same price. And at $4 sale for a book, £1 or less, I would make $1.35. And so I was paying like 20 cents a book or less at $5 a bag. Like, I don't know, volumetrically, how many you could fit in a bag. But what was crazy was as soon as I figured that out, like tested it and it worked, I went from buying a few bags of books every day at the Goodwill outlet to buying like 20, 25. And my day got so much longer. I had to rework my work schedule because I would wait till all my competitors threw all their books back. And then I would go through all those. And it was like any book I touched, but I still wasn't super smart about it. I wouldn't want to risk the biscuit. And so I was getting pretty much penny books that you could make $1.35. And my competitors every day were now like, what are you doing? What do you know that we don't know? And I was clamming up on them, you know, like, how's it feel, buddy? You know? And that went on for a while until I remember one day I had like, and I feel like I learned everything like this, just like one step at a time, is scanning textbooks that are valuable, but you don't want to buy them for MF because the profit is only like $6, right? And it's a 6 or an 8 pound textbook, like a huge honking history book or whatever. But then I looked at it from the lens of FBA, and I was like, wow, the FBA price on this thing is like $48 still. And if this was $48 MF, there's no way my competition would have left it there. Cause you know, you occasionally find those at the bins, a $40 textbook or whatever that somehow slipped through the cracks. Obviously more so back in the day than now, but still happens. And I was like, let's just try it. And I sent it FBA, and it sold for like $48. And I was like, oh my God, mind blown. We're sending as much to FBA as we can now. And like, also now I'm getting like 50 bags of books some days because it was insane how long I was staying there. I would have to take 2 car trips to take all the books home. It would take forever to get them all listed, which is like, I got to figure out how to use a spreadsheet to list books, like with the inventory loader file, like, because I wasn't using any software for listing or inventory management yet. I don't even know if it existed. And then I even found out, I was like, then the same thought process, and you're listing books and you're like, wait, the low FBA price is this. I was like, I could buy these offers and send them to FBA off Amazon. And this was like way before eFlip existed. Only I feel like I'm like, in hindsight, I feel like such an idiot because I noticed it, but only inside of my own microcosm. I wasn't like, let's buckle down and just spend 10 grand buying books off Amazon to sell on Amazon. Cause I was making money, but I wasn't like loaded. We did over 100 grand of sales our first year selling on Amazon. And it's 100% because FBA came out that year. And I was the first people in my area to get on the FBA train. But basically it was just me doing more of that for a long time, until it wasn't just me and my wife. It was me and my wife and two of my friends, or my roommate and another friend. My roommate lost his job and was like, I'll pay you to come with me. What do you mean I'll pay you to come with me? I'll pay you to go to the bins with me. And even if you don't even grab any books, just stand next to me so no one else can get the books that are right next to me. Because the way they put the books out are in these gaylords, right? And only two people can really get into the front of each one at a time. And if someone stands next to you, that means your competitor can't come into your bin. So at the time, my wife was pregnant. And so she could just stand there and not even really get books, just kind of pretend to get books. And that would mean I got the bin locked down. You know what I mean? And then it was like, oh, I need you guys to list books now. This is how it works. And eventually years go by and I had like a small team. So it was like me, my wife, two friends, and we were going out and we would go to the bins. Then we would work our route going to the different thrift stores. And I always sold on eBay too. So I would be at the thrift stores, and you're like a thrift army knife, more stuff, the more stuff you can find. So you're over here flipping plates over and looking at the maker mark on the plates, or, looking at the leather shoes, or like anything, the more the more you grow or whatever. So, and then I broke my foot at a bachelor party skateboarding one year. And so I had a knee scooter, and I tried going to the bins on the knee scooter, and it just didn't work out so good. My productivity, my productivity was like 15%, like it was terrible. Plus I would try to go ham, and then I would like hurt myself, and be like, cause you forget that you're in a terrible situation. And, ultimately I had to just lay back and trust my team to go without me, which I previously never thought they could do. I was like, I'm integral. There's no way it could work without me. I'm like the Ultron of this situation. And it turns out it could work. They weren't doing as good as me. They're probably slacking off a little bit, but I mean, it's not their business. So why would they work as hard as me, or as hard as when I'm there and they see how hard I'm working? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I was still getting books every day, and they were still getting listed, and they were still getting shipped. It was probably, 60 to 70% capacity. But that's when I realized, I was like, dang, I don't need to go every day. And right around then I had found, or right around maybe when my legs started to heal, I think I found that copy of Crush It, that GaryVee wrote that book. Yeah. And it wasn't worth any money. So I almost threw it back.
Well, it sells so quick. It was selling so quick, the market brought it down. Yeah,
exactly. It was super popular. I knew it was popular. And I knew it was like, probably, I didn't know who GaryVee was, but I knew it was probably a cool author, because who would name their book Crush It, right? You can't be like a middle of the mall old white guy and name your book Crush It. It just, you got to be like, that's like a decent vernacular, into the cool spectrum at least. And the forward on the book was from Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos. And I had just read, literally probably that week, finished reading Delivering Happiness, which if anyone's listening to this and they haven't read that book, they absolutely need to read it. It's the best story of like a business, and how they all the way grew it all the way up to selling to Amazon, et cetera, but like almost lost it 3 times. And thank God turned down the several $1 million offer when they were like eating like McDonald's only, and like, I don't know. It's such a good story. And so that convinced me to read the book, read it, and was like, dude, this guy's a freaking genius. Like, I had never thought about doing it this way. I always wanted to be a YouTuber, but I thought I was going to be like Casey Neistat, because I skateboard and I make skateboard videos. And so I was like, Casey's videos reminded me of like skateboarding. And I was like, dude, the dude's a rock star because he can edit video. This is insane. Like people chasing him down like the Beatles in the 60s, you know, like, wow. But then when I read Crush It, I was like, oh, you idiot. That's not how you're going to do it. This is how you're going to do it. You have all this valuable knowledge trapped in your head. You need to share it with people. And like, if you haven't read Crush It, you need to read that too, because that is the game plan for how to do social media. It's everything you need to know. So I read that all in one night, and then, you know, went on whatever that website is to like check if your name would be available on like every website, you know what I mean? Like every social platform. And I was like, Reezy Resells, cool. Because my actual name's Mike, but my last name's Resendes. So it goes from people calling you Resendes to calling you Reezy or Mike Reezy. It's like most people just call me Reezy. And so Reezy Resells it is. Alliterations are a wonderful thing for marketing. And I just go in and I just buy the website, get all the socials going. And that's when I started social media. And I believe it was like 2016, I want to say, maybe late 2015. And I mean, you guys know a lot of the rest of the story after that. But when I started, I was like, I'm doing this obviously because I want to make money. But the other people that were teaching how to sell online, they were all really old. Like you guys are less than half the age of the average marketer online teaching this stuff when I started. They were probably 55, balding, gray hair. Like shout out to, you know, the OGs like Chris Green, or like one of the first persons I seen was like Jordan Malik. Like this is so, most of these people don't do marketing anymore, but like almost nobody could authentically like wear a baseball cap forward, let alone backwards. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. Like they all seem scammy. They're all giving you like a tidbit, like you could smell the chocolate chip cookie, but you can't have a bite. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? When you do like come to my free class and it's like 40 minutes of almost learning something, but not really quite learning something, you know? Yeah. So I felt like they were charging too much for too little. And so it was kind of like a Robin Hood play. And that's how I was going to make money on YouTube and become famous or whatever. And so I started doing it and had some success in some videos. And then people would be like later down the line, like I got recognized in Disneyland, or I start getting recognized, you know, and people are like, meet me and crying and shit. And they're like, yo, my husband lost his job, and because of your free YouTube channel, you know, we're good and you changed our lives and now we're doing XYZ. And that stuff like hit me in the heart. And I come from like a selfish family that wasn't, you know, really raised on values. It was like world's dog eat dog, get yours. I've got to ruffle some feathers. Who cares? You know, we never did no volunteer work, like nothing like that. And I never, like people would tell me like, it's better to give than receive. And I was like, oh yeah, well, give me some shit. It should make you feel better then, right? Like I didn't really believe that. But then when this feedback started coming back to me, I'm sure you guys know now too, regardless of your financial aspirations with being a marketer, you're kind of like, damn, that's kind of amazing. And it's almost like selfish how I became addicted to that feeling of helping people. Like GaryVee says, you know, it's what is his comment? He's says it's he's like,
oh, something like that. Yeah.
He was like, whatever. It's like it's a drug. It's a drug. Helping people is a drug. This is, I'm at a loss for words right now, but that's the moral of this little statement here, is that like he says it's oxygen or whatever. Well, I was like, no, I don't know. It might be more like crack, Gary. Like this is a great feeling. Not that I know what that's like, guys, calm down. But I was like, wow, like, and it kind of shifted my whole perspective to be like, now I felt like I could do like I have a purpose, you know, because before, like I might have been like, yeah, destiny, like whatever, like what's a purpose? Like the purpose is to make as much money as you can, exerting the least amount of energy as possible so you can do whatever you want all the time. And suddenly my perspective changed to, wow, I'm doing something that makes a difference. And like, when I'm gone, you know, the world will be a better place because of what I did. And like, I want to do that even more. So it's like undeniable. And that's going to take all my time. And so I'm going to have to make money off of it somehow. And that was kind of like the shift for me. And then I just kept banging on YouTube and doing my thing. I was actively pursuing GaryVee, but not because I wanted to win his attention, to get a shout out, to grow my social media, but because I just wanted to tell him thank you, like person to person. I want to shake his hand and be like, thanks, dog. You changed my life. Like, I don't know if you know this, but you did. And when he started the 2017 flip challenge, I got excited because I was like, I
bang,
know, yeah,
that's
I
it.
know more about this than he does. You know what I mean? Because he's, as much as he practices, when he's not talking social media, he's kind of a pontificator in that state. He might do it a little, but he doesn't really know how it works, the ins and outs. And I remember he was doing the Ask GaryVee book. He was pushing the new Ask GaryVee book, and he did an 8-hour live stream in his office. And it was Facebook, YouTube, Meerkat, and something else, maybe Periscope. And I got on YouTube, can't comment. You can watch, but you can't comment. I got on Periscope, you can watch, but you can't comment. Got on everything, you can't really comment. You could watch. And then I was like, let's try Meerkat. Maybe that'll work because I've never heard of Meerkat. So I made an account. Got Meerkat's out of business, by the way. That's why you've never heard of it. And I get on there, and sure enough, I can comment. And so I wrote out like, I forget what it was. It was like, I did 650,000 selling used books in 2016 or 2015, like whatever. And I pasted it in there, and crickets. He didn't see it. And so I just copied it back again, and I was just waiting. And he had these lulls where he would like get close to the screen because he was looking for something to say, for the very rare 3 seconds of GaryVee not saying anything, which is probably seems like an hour and a half to him. And then I hit it, and he sees it, and he was like, he reads it, and he was like, holy shit, that's hustle. You guys see that? And like some of you guys might remember from my earlier videos, I had that
I've
as the
seen that
intro.
clip. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So I asked Gary, like, hey, can I use this on my intro? And he was like, sure, go ahead. And now when I look back, I really feel like that was an accidental, very smart thing for me to do, because I was just doing it to be like, I was a fan, you know? And I was like, look what, like, my idol shouted me out. Like, this is freaking cool. You know what I mean? This is like Michael Jordan say, like, what's up? You're now watching Reezy Resells. I'm like, this is fucking tight. And so I put it on there, but little did I realize that now when I think of it, I'm like, that was the ultimate cosign, because people would be like, I whether or not it come up in their feed or not. And you guys know, because you make content now, you can have a great video. That's great value. But if the title and the thumbnail doesn't get the click, or even if you get the click and they don't make it past the intro because your intro is boring as hell, like, hi guys, today we're going to do that. And you know what I mean? Like, it might not work, and they might not make it through to watch the video. So there's a lot of intricacies to it. But having that at the beginning of the video definitely increased the likeliness that they're going to watch the first 2 minutes, which gives them a chance to actually connect with me. And then provided you vibe with me, you know what I mean? And I did my job after that, we make it through the video. And so I think that is when my social media started climbing, but not like exponentially. Everyone thinks you get a shout out from someone with 1 million subscribers, you've made it. The reality is you might get 1,000 subscribers. You know what I mean? But if you leverage it properly and consistently, which I think I did until I started to feel self-conscious of it and changed it one day, you know, it increases the likeliness that people are going to watch it or subscribe to your stuff or whatever. And then his team had like shouted me out on some other things, like they're talking about in the 2017 flip challenge. He has that video where he's like, don't ask me, don't ask Reezy Resells, like, do the research. And I was so bummed on that. I was like, dude, he said my name wrong. Like, damn it. Like, at least they put it on the screen. So I got another little boost there, you know? But it also told me that, like, hey, he's watching me. And so I started doing like stuff he says. Like, I told my audience, like, hey, I'm going to be on the show. He's going to be on my show too one day. Like, these are going to happen. I put it out there, and I was like, you can help me by like contacting his email. Like, this is his email him and say, hey, we want Reezy on the show. That would be great. You know what I mean? Go in the comments and comment, we want Reezy on the show. Like, cause you know, he always says he reads the comments. And so
that's smart. That's way smart.
And I had notifications turned on for Gary's social media on Twitter and Instagram. And whenever he posted, I would try to be the first person. That's very hard for someone like him. If you think you're the first, you're probably like the third or the fifth or the 12th. But I would write meaningful comments that took both hands to be put on your phone, not just like fire emoji, rad, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, people can tell when you write a thoughtful comment. They had to put both hands on their phone. They definitely watched the content, and then they left a response that was insightful or valuable in some way. You know, and I would answer questions that he didn't answer on his social media. And like, we were on live and I would answer questions that were coming, and I was like, dude, quit asking bullshit questions that he's already answered like a million times. Like, you're wasting his time. Like, I got questions I want to ask him that you guys aren't asking him. Like, what is the deal? And eventually, Gary messaged me on Twitter. He followed me, and then he was like, hey, I want to have you on the show. And I was like, let's do it. Like, for real, let's do it. And it took forever.
You remember the exact day that you saw that message?
Oh, man, no. But all I do remember is that it was like a year from when he sent me that message to when anything actually happened. And there was like a lot of back and forth, and him not replying and me being like, hey, what's up? And him not seeing the message or anything. And then I remember I started to feel like a jealous boyfriend, jealous girlfriend. I felt like a jealous girlfriend. I don't know what that feels like. Jealous boyfriend or something. And I was like, maybe I'm just pressing him too much. I'm starting to feel weird about it, you know? And so I kind of chilled off of it. And then I was drunk one night, and I was like low key drunk, not like wasted, but I was like, I'm going to give it another push. And so I sent him, I'm pushing again, baby. And so I sent him a message, and in the message, I started the message with 3 or 4 mad face emojis. So you know how when you get a DM on Instagram, you see the first part of the sentence and then the rest of it's truncated. You have to click on it to see it. All he could see in the message was mad emojis. And so think about it. When you're looking at your unread DMs and you see messages from someone you kind of know, and it's mad emojis, you're likely to click on it. It's just psychology to be like, what did I do to piss this person off? You know what I mean? Like, we're wired to go for the negative way more than the positive. And so he clicks on it, and then the message just says, hey, I'm not mad at you. Just wanted to get your attention. But regarding, you know, having me on the show, I thought you were a man of your word. What's up? And which is like his own language. You know what I mean? And right away he opened a group chat with his assistant, Tyler, and was like, Tyler, make it happen. Get Reezy on the show. And then that's how I eventually got on the pod sessions, which was insane. Insane. Cause I didn't know who Erica Nardini was. And she's like one of the baddest female CEOs on the planet of Barstool. And then Alex Benayan, who is also now a good friend of mine, like a great public speaker. He wrote the book, The Third Door, which is a killer book that everyone should read, just about, you know, you don't need to wait in line to take your turn. There might be, you know, an open window in the back room you could climb through or something, like, to paraphrase the whole book. Right. And it was great. And that was my first time being in the room with Gary. And I was like, he's exactly like he is in videos. Like, if you watch that, you can tell me and him are vibing. I almost feel bad for Erica and Alex because I ate up most of the talking time. And you could tell Gary was excited to talk reselling, you know? And then I was on his show another time. I was on his show for like some coffee and chat thing or whatever. And then I was like, I'm going to get him on my show. And I think I was on, like, what episode are you guys on? Do you know what number?
12, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Congrats. It's so hard to make it to 100. Most people probably don't even make it to 25.
Yeah. It's a good
it's definitely fun, right? I love interviewing and talking. You get to get, you know, even selfishly, you get to get all the answers you want. You know what I mean? And turns out you're not the only one that wants those answers. So they're valuable for other people too. But so I messaged Gary and I was like, and it's still strategic, even though he follows me and I could DM him. I'm like, what time is it in New York? What time does Gary get up? Maybe 5, maybe 6. He's brushing his teeth or something. I don't know. I'll message him at 6 a.m. New York time because it increases the likeliness that he'll see it. He's got to have less volume at that time. You figure his DMs are just like millions of unread messages and he never checks all of them. So if you're not at the top, you don't exist. And I was like, hey, Gary, it would mean the world to me, which is more of his language, if you would be guest number 100 on my podcast. I'm on episode 60 or 55 or whatever it was. You know what I mean? And
You're planning ahead. Yeah.
He agreed right away. And I think it's easy. That's like a good tip for people trying to get people on their show or whatever, is that like, if you're only on episode 1, you're not going to have a lot of good luck getting people to go. And it's not because you suck or it's not good. It's because people's time's valuable and they're worried that maybe you're only going to go to 11 episodes and then that's a waste. You know what I mean? But if you say, hey, I'm on episode 12, when I get to episode 50, would you be my guest? That's such an easy ask, and such a, people will agree to that. No matter who you are, just a kid at high school, I guarantee people will agree to that. And so I hit him with that. He said, yes. I got to episode 99 and I was like, all right, we're doing this. And then it was a lot of back and forth with him again, as usual. And I think to the point where I was just like, yeah, that's episode 100, but I was still recording and releasing more episodes. So at some point I kind of stopped putting the number on the episode on where people could see it, because it just got out of control. And that's still episode 100, but I was like, I'm doing 102, 103, 104. Like, we're not waiting. And so the day finally comes and I get the call and it was like, hey, it's Wednesday. And he was like, you want to come? How about Friday at 9 a.m.? And I'm sitting in California on Wednesday afternoon. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Like, I always buy plane tickets 48 hours in advance. Like, no problem, buddy. Right. Because it's not like they're paying for me to go out there or anything. So I fly out there and I make a really hasty event with my paid Discord and was like, guys, and I sold a few rooms, I think, to people who weren't in my Discord. I got a 5 or 10 room Airbnb, brought a bunch of people and was like, we're going to do this. And then we're going to go out and have pizza at my favorite pizza spots. And we're just going to, jam. And it was great. I get to New York the morning I get there and I get a call and it's like, hey, Gary's got to cancel. He's got stuff with the kids. And I was like, no, I'm melting. Like, why? But you can't ever check anyone over that. That's the ultimate excuse.
Yeah.
Oh, the kids. And I'm not saying Gary was lying or anything, but I have kids myself too. So I was like, dang, man, okay, well,
excuse. I know what that means.
yeah, exactly. And so we're going to salvage it. We're going to have a good old time. We made some content, we contented. Amazon Lit came out, Watch Me Amazon came out. We did our thing. And it was just 3 months later until it got rescheduled. And then I just went out there and did it myself with nobody. And I flew in the morning of the podcast, did the podcast, and then flew back home the same day. And that's when I interviewed Gary. And I was so excited to interview him. I got to ask him all the questions I've always wanted to ask him that nobody else asked him. And if you guys haven't seen the interview where I interviewed GaryVee, I think I very pompously titled it the best GaryVee interview ever. But I mean, I think that's true. It's not just me being pompous. I think it's the best. As someone who's listened to all his interviews and all his keynotes, I don't really watch his day to day because it's just more of the same stuff, in the newer time frame or whatever. But the new stuff, sure. Interviews, definitely. And I hate any interview I watch of anybody when they ask them a dumb question. I'm like, dude, that was not the question. Or especially when you follow them and you're like, they've been asked that before. What are you doing? And so asking him the questions that I want to ask him was just great. I happen to have, while I was waiting at some point in my time period, I found a sealed Jets Monopoly at a garage sale that I got for $1. And it was worth maybe $20 if selling it on eBay. But I was like, dude, I'm giving this to GaryVee when I make it on the show someday. So I just put it in the garage and just waited.
Oh,
and then it started. I had to get an extra checked luggage just to bring that damn Monopoly to the show. I'm not playing because it just wouldn't fit in my carry-on. And you didn't want to crush it or anything, pun intended, I guess.
Yeah, bet super pun intended.
Accidental pun intention. And I bought Jets wrapping paper off of Amazon, and I buy 3 sets to get enough to wrap. That's a really small offering of wrapping paper now that I think of it, but wrapped it up, brought it in. You always got to come bearing gifts. That's a little tip too for relationship building and networking. If you can bring a gift for someone, and especially something that they like, it's just another touch point to be like, wow, not only are they being respectful and appreciative, they like researched me enough to know what I like and then brought it. And I was so tripped out when I was like, oh, I got to Nardwuar you for a second, GaryVee. And he was like, Nardwuar? And I was like, you don't know who Nardwuar is? If you guys don't know who Nardwuar is, I'm not too surprised, but he's like he's a famous interviewer, but he interviews musicians. And he's like, his whole thing, like all his videos are viral with like, definitely has interviewed musicians that you like, but he knows so much about every musician he interviews that they're surprised. He's like, he hits them with like 5 or 10 gifts every interview. Like, I got a gift for you. I got another gift for you. And he's like, here, it's a sealed copy of your father's album from 1972 when he was in the Delphonics or what. And you're like, yo, how did you know my dad was in a jazz band or like whatever, you know, like nobody knows that. I don't talk about that. Like, how did you know that? Did you tell him? I didn't tell him. How do you know? Like, it's wild, right? And so it's really good content. And guaranteed some of your listeners know who he is, but I was super surprised that Gary didn't know. So I Nardwarred him. And there was a little stuff that was planned out. Like when I was like, they wanted $5, they didn't get it. You know, I was like, I was having breakfast with Watch Me Amazon and I was trying to tell him like, here's the questions I have ready to go. My napkin notes, you know, which I never take notes for anything. Like I've freestyled hour-long stage speeches. And back when we used to do an hour and not 30 minutes. And he was like, yeah. And he's like, you know, it'd be cool is when you're giving him the game, be like, you know, they wanted whatever, they didn't get it. And he's like, I bet he bites on that, you know? And sure enough, that created like that clip, you know, where I'm like, they wanted 5. And then me and Gary in conjunction, like, they didn't get it, you know, laughter, like give him the game or whatever. But I mean, it's been a real wild trip. I'd like to say I know what I'm doing, but I mean, I think I'm just good at talking and keeping people's attention. And ultimately during the pandemic, when I was trying to scale my business, my book business from being cherry picking, which is how it had always been, to being a bulk book business where we have a warehouse and we get truckloads of books from our suppliers. We lost our suppliers or our supplier, we didn't have more than one. That's another thing that I learned. You need more than one supplier for more than one company, because if you have a black swan event like the pandemic hit and they closed down, now you can't get no supply. And the last day we're like sweeping up the warehouse and I have to tell my employees, like, there's nothing left to do. Like, I can't employ you guys any longer. Like, I'm going to skateboard in this warehouse. What else are we going to do? Because I had a lease. I couldn't get my money back on the warehouse. And we were doing so much RA and OA because the pandemic had just hit off. But I mean, we had a 2,500 square foot warehouse and a forklift and it was empty. And we were doing 1 million of RA and OA in the front office, which is just like 10 by 15. We didn't need the warehouse. And I was at first, I felt like a huge failure, but then I started to realize, I was like, wait, like you should have been focusing on content and serving the community way before this. Like my opportunity cost, like I'm losing so much money not doing that, you know, like not to mention I'm still just pursuing making money, which only helps me, not other people. And when you think about it, I could always go back to doing that. Just like anybody who becomes an entrepreneur could always go back to working for someone else. You know, as long as you don't just like, you know, don't half bake it and be like, fuck you, I'm out of here. Like, be like, you know, leave on good terms, be a good human, and people will be begging you to come back. Like every time you see them, like, hey, are you coming back, Mike? No, we're still doing well. Dang it. Well, if you're ever ready, come back, you know, like you're going to learn so much. You'll become so valuable. Right. And I could always do that, but why not focus on the bigger opportunity? And now, honestly, I'm playing catch up to guys like you, where I might have more influence or more whatever you want to say it is on different platforms, but you guys are far better than me at like all of the Russell Brunson shit, all the email sequences, all of the funnels, all of the, we're at the after party and I'm like, you guys are charging how much for a consultation? I fucked up. Like, God damn, like I feel like a hobo now, you know? And I'm not saying this to be like, we're making so much money off of helping people, but your time is valuable and like, you shouldn't undersell yourself. And like, part of that for me is like imposter syndrome. Cause I grew up so poor that I've like, for a long time, I fought charging people or selling anything. I didn't sell a single thing for the first 5 years of doing content besides YouTube ads and consultations. No course, no ebook. I still don't have a course. You know, I made a book course and then the restock limits came out and I just basically just like threw all my course and like, God dang it. Like, because as you guys know, it's not easy or fun to make a course. This is fun. Talking to people and helping people on a one-to-one basis is fun, but making a course is a task. And you make it, you plan it, you get it done, and then, you know, some revolutionary change happens and the whole thing was built on that. And you're like, dang it. Okay, so now I got to redo the whole thing. And if you want to sell books, you basically can't be only FBA anymore. Like you could, but you're going to have to miss out on a lot of books. And like those are a more nuanced business model. It's not just buy all the books that are worth money, send them into FBA. You got to have merchant fulfilled as a main component of your business now if you're a bookseller. And so that means I have to rework the whole thing. And so even now, later, like over a year later, I'm just like, ah. And then also during the pandemic, I got a little depressed, as a lot of us did, for various multiple reasons, you know? And so I'd like to say that I'm out of my depression, but I'm like, what is it? February 28th. I'm still trying to get 2023 started. You know, the first 2 months are almost over. And I was really pumped to go to the Miami meeting or the Miami conference that Avery and Taylor put on, not just to speak myself, but to be around all of you guys. Cause I had never met any of you guys. Cause like, you know, life's busy, especially if you have a family and they want your time and you got your own things you do that are not entrepreneur stuff. You know, maybe you're a gym rat, maybe you do art, skateboarding, whatever. And so it's hard to stop and consume some content here or there, you know, when it doesn't fit into your schedule. And so I know that if I go to these events, I'm forced to be around everybody. And then I just get like infected with everything.
Bro,
and like
that shit was so fucking awesome. Oh my gosh, man. Like that shit was they outdid it. We'll do a full recap episode, everyone listening. But if you didn't come, you missed out. You better be there next.
Oh yeah. You played yourself, as DJ Khaled used to say. You definitely played yourself. I'm not saying you need to go on the $700 yacht thing or whatever the hell they charge for that. But you could have come to, like, a lot of people don't know this. You don't even have to buy a ticket to a conference to go to a conference. You might not be able to get into the event, but if you know what hotel it's at, go to the bar the night before, the night of, the night after. As soon as the event gets out and everybody's at the bar, nobody knows you didn't go to the event. Just be like, what's up, peeps? Where are we going? You know what I mean? And you're part of the squad. You know, you might be like poolside having great business conversations. And when people are like, wait, you didn't come to the event? And you're like, nah, dog, I just showed up to the bar. And they're like, damn, you're a hustler for real. You know, like no one will be mad at you. But like, even when you go to events, one thing Avery didn't do at this event is they didn't sell the videos. And I understand maybe they will later or whatever. Yeah. But usually when I go to conferences and they're larger, like large enough to where there's always two people speaking at two locations at the same time, at least, and you have to pick which one you want to see, if that, just buy the videos. And I don't even barely go watch anyone. Like, oh, Mr. Beast is speaking, I'll go inside there because everyone's in there to watch that anyways, or GaryVee. But the hack at conferences is to stay in the lobby, to stay in the hallways. You know who's in the hallways when the people are speaking? The people who are going to speak next. Yeah, they're in the hallway. And everybody who's at the show that would normally be surrounding them and bugging the crap out of them is not there. So there's like some major players, the people that go to events and either pay for them or got paid to go there and are in the hallways during the thing that they supposedly paid to watch. Like, those are major players, and those are people you should be networking with. Buy the videos, watch them later. Let your whole team watch them. You know what I mean? Watch those whenever. Take the audio and just listen to them. You don't even need to watch them. It's a stage speech. Like, if you're listening and you feel like you need, oh, they got a diagram I need to see, cool, go back and watch it. But you could listen to them while you work, while you drive, like whatever. You don't need to be there. You know what I mean? And so that's one thing. But man, you played yourself big time if you didn't go. And it's not like, I'm not saying you're going to learn revolutionary shit. Like, if you've imagine never selling at all and just got hit with a Google ad and you just show up, that would be the most raddest kickstart into your journey. But even if you're already successful, you did a few 100,000, you quit your 9 to 5, there's zero chance in hell you don't pick up at least one gold nugget from every conference you go to. That's well worth its weight in gold for what you paid to go to the conference. You know, those people that are like, going to conferences is a scam. We're like, well, no, it's tax write-off for one, it's education. And for two, you always learn something, but the networking is insane. Like if you network properly, and it like sounds so dumb to say networking, I literally just mean shooting the shit with other entrepreneurs who are business minded and want to be successful and make more money and do great things or whatever. It's going to be so good. You're going to get motivated, whether it's the competitive alpha male or female in you that just feels driven to be like, they did it, I can do it. And that's really how I am. But like, damn, let me get your number. You can't do that on Instagram. I mean, you might be able to, but not really. But like,
we can do it. Other people can, because we put in the time to where people know.
Right, exactly. But like at these parties or after parties or conferences or whatever, like we might just pass phones around and be like, hey, everybody pass your phone around and put everybody's name in it. Put your name in it when it comes to you. Like I've done that at a lot of events, and I'm talking like people that make 10 million, 20 million, 50 million a year and have 50-person businesses, employees. I'm putting my number into their phone and I can text them and ask them a random question when I need to, you know, like that's
Even
invaluable.
Still, like, if I have a 20-minute conversation with someone at the bar at the wharf, right? If I see that name pop up in the DMs, I'm just naturally going to be more inclined to respond to that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Or
here's the other thing.
answer.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. And here's
No,
the
you're
other
good.
thing too. Like, we all follow people because there's a few reasons you follow people, right? Some is we're literally consumers and we want to learn more from the people we follow, or it's entertaining, whatever. We're getting value. But then we're also following people in our industry, maybe not necessarily for that, but just to observe them and see like what content they're making and how it works or how they're doing. Or like I'll subscribe to other YouTubers and turn the bells on, not because I want to watch their videos, and I don't mean any disrespect, but because I want to get an alert when they post a video, like bing, so-and-so posted a video. And I'm like, that's 2 videos they've posted since I posted a video. It just drives me to want to post more because it keeps me in touch with their, productivity, and I forget where I was going with that one, but it's just like,
The conference in person.
It validates it. Yeah. Like seeing all these people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So when you go through, like I tell people too, I was like, and at the conference, I might've told you this if you were there, like, I'll follow you. Like, you're cool, dude. We had a good conversation, but you're not really a content creator. And so like, if I follow you and for 6 months, all you do is post pictures of your food or your dog, when it comes time for me to trim the fat, which I do every like 6 months, I get anxiety and I was like, I'm unfollowing a bunch of people. Even though they make it difficult, you can only do like 50 a day or something. So you have to be vigilant about it. But when you start to feel like you're not seeing content that you definitely want to see, and you feel like, damn it, the algorithm is ruining the experience for me. Maybe if I unfollow some people, it will work. You know who you don't unfollow? The people who you met at the event that you genuinely know. You know what I mean? And like, those are the people who you don't really like. Who is this? I don't really remember. And the content's not valuable. Unfollow. But the people who you'll remember because you had a good experience and you spent time with them and you bought them a drink, they bought you a drink, like whatever it is, you're not unfollowing them. And so like, I mean, I have so many relationships online with people that I've only met at conferences. But like when I go to a conference, I go to a YouTube conference, there's like 5 or 10 people I know from the other YouTube conferences I've been to, and we're like an instant click, and they're introducing you to their friends. And then when you go on Twitter, especially, Twitter is one of my favorite networking platforms because they have that feature where it says like, Miles commented this and it shows it to me, but he's commenting on someone else's comment that I don't follow and don't even know. But because I follow Miles, it shows me what Miles was doing. So now I have opportunity to click on that conversation, read it, analyze it, and then add value and prove I'm not a dumbass. Then that creator can read it and be like, wow, that was an insightful take on this conversation. Who is this guy? And they'll click on it and say, followed by Miles. And that's like a instant cosign, and boom, now they follow you. Now you're getting followed by another big account that Miles follows and follows Miles just because you hopped in the conversation, which anybody could hop in a conversation, but hopping in with that little cosign that just says followed by Miles and, Amazon lit or whatever the hell else it says, you know what I mean? Like other platforms don't have that in the networking. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, none of that. It's completely unique to Twitter. And so I know a lot of people do YouTube, but don't do Instagram, or they do TikTok, but don't do YouTube or Instagram. Almost nobody does Twitter. Like if there's like 10,000 Amazon reseller influencer guru guys, which I hate to use that word, but it's just a label that people might label us as. There's like 1,000 on Twitter. Less, 500.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's
just naturally harder to fake it, right?
Well, yeah, because it's stream of consciousness, right? Yeah. It's just your thoughts into the wind.
So the fact of the matter is you'll accumulate followers on Instagram just by posting some boxes. Maybe a sales screenshot now and again, right? But Twitter, you gain followers by the substance, by the content.
Exactly. The other thing I like about Twitter, a couple things, but I like that you could post 1 minute, you could post every minute of the day all day, and no one would care. No one would care. And the ones that land, and the ones that don't, it's like they never even existed. And the other thing that's great about it is when first of all, you can just like, I have an idea, done. No friction between your idea of what you want to post and like creating content and being like, I got to turn the lights on. I got to brush my hair. I got to get the backdrop ready. Like none of that. You just write it out. But the stuff that lands on Twitter, I find is like, because Twitter's a real basic platform. Like it's proof of concept for psychology. So you write something and it does well on Twitter. Almost always I can just screenshot that and post it on Instagram and it will also do well. So I'll then screenshot the Twitter post it on Instagram, which is GaryVee 101, and then write a long, thoughtful caption because people like reading those. And the longer they read them, the more engagement that is staying on your post. And it almost always does well. I've even made YouTube videos that were based around random tweets that I sent out that did well. And like, as you guys know by now, there's often times where you're like, this idea is gonna knock them dead. And you work so hard on it, like a YouTube video, and then you put it out and it just does terrible. And then on the other side, there's the video on the flip side for the resellers. There's another video where you almost didn't want to put it out because you're like, it's not going to do good. And you didn't put too much effort into it, but then you post it for whatever reason and it does bananas. It does super good. And so then you're like, fuck, I don't even know what the hell. I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore, And on Twitter, because you can put out that volume, it kind of counteracts that. You can put out volume at scale. Nobody cares. And you can see what does good. And then you can think, okay, how do I transfigure? I've been playing a lot of Harry Potter lately. So how do I transfigure that to be a YouTube video? Do you know what I mean? Or to be an Instagram reel or whatever. But man, you guys need to get on Twitter. If you're watching this or listening to this and you're going to get on Twitter because of this, hop on Twitter and let me know and tag me so that I can follow you back, so that I can unfollow you 6 months later if you don't post anything.
Yeah.
But hey, I'll give you a shot.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, we always like to tell our viewers like that they should be on social media, but like no one either makes the excuse they don't know how to. Or, so from your perspective, what's the playbook? How should people think about getting started? Because there's a lot of people that are right here listening right now that have heard us say it in 10 straight episodes.
Awesome. So I think that even if you don't plan on becoming like a big influencer who's going to do YouTube or whatever, you should brand yourself as, an Amazon related person, if that's what you do, so that you can learn more about Amazon by being in the community. Because just from guilt by association, you're going to be around us more. It's positive guilt. This is positive peer pressure. You're going to see what people are doing. You're going to see those 19-year-olds that are doing $1 million a year or 500,000 a month. And you're going to be like, damn. And you're going to ask questions. And some of them are going to be willing to talk to you. And not only that, but like the stuff that gets shared behind closed doors, maybe not saying no black hat stuff, but maybe light gray hat, quite often, as long as you keep the customer in mind, you might be okay to break the rules a little bit here and there, but we can't talk about that on social media openly because it's against the rules. You know what I mean? And so yeah, the
She
real
say?
alpha. I got to use these youthful words every time I
Yeah.
use one. I lose a couple years, get cut off my age every time I use one of these. So the alpha on doing social media is one, you're going to learn stuff. You're going to teach people something easily. Not everyone knows everything. Even if you're just regurgitating all the stuff you learned from other people, which is kind of how we learn. And then people are going to be like, damn, I'm going to share stuff with them too, because they got value out of that. But if you want to do social media, like for real, whatever it is, whether it's Amazon or online business or being like a CPA or a bookkeeper or like as the Zoom revolution taught us, there's so many traditional business models that can now realize that they can function online. They don't have to have a physical office. Clients don't even want to come anymore. And it has fully democratized your access to clients. You don't have to, there's people who are like 55 and never did internet and have been doing their insurance sales business for 30 years in a brick and mortar. And now they're like, I got clients all over, but they don't know how to run ads yet to get clients. You know what I mean? They don't have no email marketing. They don't have, content marketing down. So learn how to do those things, and you could make those people a lot of money. There's 100,000 small business owners in America that are basically fresh to the internet, but they're figuring it out. And you can help them make more money by learning any of these skills that are literally free. And selling on Amazon or online is one of them. And like, I know we always talk about Amazon or whatever, but it's like, it's not just that. There's other websites, there's other platforms. You could have a Shopify store. You could run ads. Like when we talk with each other, we just think everybody knows this shit. But when we go like put one of us in a random house party, like, and people are going to be like, damn, Miles, you're a freaking genius. What do you do for a living? Like, I do this. I tell people, I just spill game on people and teach them how to do these things because, to us, it's just what we know, but not everyone knows, how to trademark or how search engines work, or how to get to the top page rank on whatever platform it is. You understand how to rank on Amazon. You understand how to rank on any website. You know what I mean? And so whatever it is you want to do, brand your social media around that and start locally. And this is a huge tip that not a lot of people talk about at all. We all know about blue ocean, red ocean, right? Full of blood because there's a lot of sharks out there. You want to go into the blue ocean where there's less people doing what you do. So start locally. Wherever you live, there's far less people doing what you might be doing in your town than on the internet. On the internet, there's hundreds of thousands of us. In your town, there might be 5 or 10 or 2 or 1 or none. You might be the only one. So
it's
offer your
with Amazon space.
Yeah, offer your service for free to, the Chamber of Commerce, the town businesses, the people that need your help, right? For free. And when it starts working, they're going to start telling people. Now you're going to start working for other like town-based organizations and businesses. It might be free work for a while, but at some point you're going to be like, I'm all booked up. Like I can't do free work anymore. You got to pay me. And so now, and people are happy to pay you. They've heard all these word of mouth referrals from other local businesses and people they go out and have lunch with, et cetera, et cetera. So now you're not only branded as the Amazon guy or the Shopify guy or the ad selling guy or whatever, but you've done it successfully for all of these local businesses. And that's like a huge hack because like, okay, you could figure out how to run ads and then semi-kill it on ads, not even be really that good, but because the other side, the business and their service and how they close it and everything is really good, you can now say, I helped them sell $1 million through my ads. And it's not a lie, which is very key to being authentic to the internet and doing, what you want to do and gaining people's trust. And now when you go online, you already have a track record and you have 50 or so businesses that you've helped locally that are backing you and following you. And people can see that online and they have influence outside of just the local area. So don't just make your profile or your account and then go on the internet and just be like, I'm here. You know what I mean? Show up with 1,000 or 2,000 followers already before you start pushing anything on the internet. And now you're like, look, You're talking about what you've done already. I've helped these businesses. Here's what I've done. And that's going to make the ask so much easier and so much more authentic. And people could then click and go look at it. Like when your ask or what you're saying you do is something that people can verify, you know what I mean? Like I'm just sign up for my soccer program to teach you your kids how to play soccer. It's $3.99, blah, 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 blah. But when you click on my name, you could see, and you could like Google that in college, my team won hella soccer trophies. Like that's verifiable. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or like when I started, it wasn't just like, hey, I'm here, let me tell you this. It's like, I've been doing this for a decade. You know what I mean? Here's my sales screenshots. You know, a lot of people, they see what I do and then they basically try to copy me exactly. And I'm just like, how are you going to be me? Because you just started selling on Amazon. That it doesn't work like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can't provide value to people when you're just learning. It just makes the ask a lot harder for when you're asking people to purchase your services or your time to help them. And so I think start locally, build your track record in a blue ocean, and then bring it online. And now the ocean seems, I'm not saying it's blue online, but it might be light pink, maybe a lot less red, when you could stand out from everyone else with like, look what I've done. And there's a lot of hacks to presenting what you've done. And this is just marketing in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, when we were doing book partnerships with thrift stores, one thing we realized that worked really well was when we would give people their payouts, especially like if it was a particularly large payout, we'd go get one of those big ass checks from like Staples. You know what I mean? Like everyone's seen Happy Gilmore and he's like, I want one of those big checks. What about those? You know? Well, it turns out everybody wants a big ass check. So if you partner with people and you bring them their payment, you could just Venmo them. You could just write them a check, but give them one of those big ass checks. They get a little one too, but guess what happens when you give someone a big ass check? They get a big ass smile and you take a picture with it. And then they put it in their office and hang it on the wall or what. You can't hide a big ass check. People are going to see it. So then the next person you go down the line, you're like, they see the big ass check that the other person got. They want one too. It makes the ask for the next partnership easier. So, you know what I mean? There's a lot of tactical stuff in the execution of actually doing the service and the marketing that if you study the world around you and what works, like consume GaryVee's content, listen to, marketing and psychology, or, you know what I mean? Like people are trying to make thumbnails and they're like all reddish. And I'm like, you realize stop signs are red. And, if you want people to click on it, it shouldn't be red. Like it's psychologically proven, like blue is way better color. You know what I mean?
All those math quizzes from high school with the red all over.
Yeah, there's so much little nuance of stuff, and don't be afraid if the first time you pick up the camera, it seems so heavy. People are like, Reezy, how are you so good at videos and blah, blah, blah. Well, I was neglected, so I think I learned how to get attention, but I'm a skateboarder and we've been making videos forever. So I already had 20 years of experience making videos when I started YouTube, right? And so like you were saying, people with the camera so heavy, and I think that's kind of mostly a metaphor for like, and Jacob, Amazon Kingpin, was saying he was going to be nervous to be on the show. He's going to do great. But one tip I like to tell people is that you guys know Men in Black, the movie?
A little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, that mind wiper device they have where they're like, look into this thing and they press the button and it does like a photo flash and then everyone forgets what just happened. They didn't see an alien. Well, I like to say that pretend that the red button on your camera is the mind wiper for Men in Black. So you have your idea of what you want to say, but when your conscious starts coming in to be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not good enough for this. Like blah, blah, blah. Dude, just press the mind wiper button and go. Forget about all that stuff. Just, and then do you. Because there's so many people that are like, I can't do YouTube. I can't be on camera. And I'm like, the hell you can't. We just had a killer 10-minute conversation. And if we would have been secretly filming that would be amazing content. Like how many times you have a call with someone and you're like, we should have been recording this. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that idea that you can't do it is just complete bullshit. If you've ever had a good conversation, you could make content. If people regularly ask you about stuff, you have knowledge. You know what I mean? Like questions are content suggestions. So things that people ask you, especially a lot, write those down. Those are ideas for videos to make, because guess what? After you make all those videos, when people ask you questions, you get to reply with a video. You don't have to reply with an answer. You say, oh, I made a video about that. Check it out. Here it is. Boom. Link. Right.
All right. So I really got to run. So we got to cut you off here, but thanks a lot for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. It was great connecting.
Yeah.
Miami, everyone go check him out. Reezy Resells on all platforms. Tag him on Twitter. Do what you got to do on that. So definitely check it out. The godfather of reselling social media. We really appreciate all you've done, and you obviously impact a shitload of people, and get the recognition you need to with everything. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I'm proud of you guys too.
Thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it.
Take it easy. All right, I got to run right now, but I'll talk to you cats later. Thanks a lot.
Later.